Welcome back to the Sunday Sweet podcast, where high performers share the exact habits and decisions that move the needle. Please don't hate me when I use this next word, but AI is moving faster than anything we've seen before, and I guarantee you're likely behind because the majority still think that ChatGPT is AI. Today's guest, Kieran, is here with all of the secrets, the know-hows, and the habits to make sure that you don't become another passionate professional who lets technology run the game. Believe it or not, this one is all about building human first and business second. Kieran, welcome to the Sunday Suite.
Thank you very much for having me.
I feel bad for anyone that's listening in because you're very suited and booted today. I love it.
As I said, it's a special occasion. We both look good, so it's fine.
You're showing me up on my own show.
No, it's okay. I couldn't possibly do that. I couldn't do that. But it was a special occasion, so I thought I would go the extra mile today.
I love it. I love it. Tuning in from Mexico as well. How's your time been over there?
It's been lovely. It's been beautiful. It's nice to get a little bit of winter sunshine, if you will. I think that's kind of the main reason. Obviously, we're trying to do some things in the US at the moment, but I'd be lying to say it wasn't just because of the sunshine as well.
1,000%. Do you know what I really want to do and I've never done is have a Christmas abroad, like in sun.
I'll tell you what, I was thinking about this the other day because I've done this before. I lived in Greece for a couple of years and I've always kind of traveled to different places and I always just try to get back for the holidays. I don't know whether it's just a tradition, if in my mind it's like I need to be back for the holidays, but I do agree. I wouldn't actually mind sort of seeing what that would be like, Christmas on the beach or something, or, something a little bit different. But yeah, maybe next year,
Yeah, it's on my list. Although this year I think it's going to be like somewhat non-traditional. My partner's family's from South Africa and his mum was telling me the other day that we should get steak for Christmas Day.
Steak for Christmas Day.
Yeah.
Go on.
They cook their roast potatoes in mayonnaise.
Isn't
that wild?
That is pretty wild. That's a little different. But steak for I don't know. I think I could manage it. I'm not a massive turkey eater. I think I could manage steak for. What's your opinions on that?
Do you know what? I'm just excited that I'm not going to have to worry that all of the meat's taken in the shops. Do you know what I mean? When you're like mad rush, like I need to get my chicken or turkey like 2 weeks in advance, and like I'm not gonna have to worry. No one else is getting steak, are they?
That's very true. That is very true. So you're doing your Christmas. Still here in the UK.
Yeah,
yeah.
I will get away one day. One day I will get away. But hey ho. So let's just let's dive into the conversation, because what I really want to do to set the scene today is just, dive into this entrepreneur mindset behind who you are, where you started. And I want to know, if your younger self could watch your life right now, do you think you'd recognize yourself?
Not at all. Not at all. No, like I could. And I think it's a good thing as well. Like, and I think this is probably a bit of advice I could give younger people. I think it's always important to try different things growing up, especially when in your teenage years, especially in your early 20s. Just taste new things, try different things that you think are going to work. They might not work. And to be honest, that's kind of what I did most of my, as I say, teenage and sort of early 20s. I was just, having these ideas, thinking this is the thing that I wanted to go into. This is the thing that was going to work for me. And it was all kind of experimentation, right? And I think with that experimentation comes the knowledge and the education, and you kind of learn as you go along. And, eventually you kind of find your place in life that kind of, suits you and what you kind of want to go into. But I think it's very important to do all that experimentation while you're still young. So if I was to look back to when, as I say, when I was 18, 19, 20, or whatever it is, like I had such a different mindset in, the sort of the things that I wanted to go into. I still always had that sales, entrepreneurial kind of mindset. Technology was always a thing that was interesting to me as well, but I was still just using that time, as I say, to experiment, try new things, taste different things. And yeah, that's obviously what's kind of made me the person who I am today. So yeah, looking back at my younger self, very, very different in terms of what I was trying to, accomplish and do sort of, back in that time.
I read something the other day, and it's in your 20s is when you get to make those cheap mistakes. So if you pivot from a job, it is what it is. If you're doing that in your 40s, you could potentially be risking your retirement. Do you know what I mean? Like, Huge
Yeah.
difference.
No, of course, 100%. But even when you say that as well, like, I don't want people to kind of get to that point and think that just because I'm in my 40s, it's too late for me. If you can find a way where you can, keep that balance. Obviously, if you have bigger responsibilities like family, kids, and stuff like that, then yes, you need to be mindful that that is a big responsibility and you can't do anything to kind of risk damaging that. But if you can try and find the balance, like, it doesn't mean just because you're, you know, in your 40s or even 50s that, it's too late for you and you can't try what you want to try. Like, I've spoken to so many people who have got to their 40s and 50s where they've worked these full-time jobs or done something completely different in their career and then have completely pivoted once they get to, 40 or 50. So I don't think we should necessarily say that by the time you get to that age, that's it for you and you can't ever try anything new. If that makes sense,
Do you know what? I'm going to get super deep now, but do you think hearing stories like that helps you to be able to feel comfortable with the unknown, the risk, the fact that things might not work themselves out in your 40s and 50s? Because one of my pet peeves is someone being like, like just generalized advice. You can do that. You'll be fine. But it's like, sometimes I need to hear it or to see it in order to feel okay with that fact. Do you think that hearing from those people, you could sit here more comfortably and say, if this didn't work out in my 40s, I'd be able to get back up and go out there and try again? Or do you think you're still in yourself, you still panic going through the motions of it? We're all human.
No, I don't panic. I believe everyone's on their own journey. Everyone's on their own path. Everyone makes mistakes, has bad things go on, has good things go on. So I think you just need to enjoy the journey and not take it, I was going to say not take it too seriously. Obviously take it seriously in terms of the work that you do, but don't go thinking that if I don't pull it off now, my whole life is wasted. I think the only time to panic is if you have done nothing for your whole entire life and you're in your 70s. That's when it's probably the time to think, all right, maybe I did mess up a little bit. But if you're still in your 20s, like, look, I'm kind of talking here like that I know it all, which, by the way, that's not the case at all. Like, I'm still young. I'm still learning myself. I'm still going to be learning lessons in my 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s. Like, I don't think you ever stop learning. So to sit here and think, okay, am I going to be concerned or worried that if, if something was to go wrong within the next few years, is that going to be it? That's not it. That's not the case at all. I think there's always time to learn, overcome, and move forward.
I've had some personal wobbles lately, haven't I? And I told you about it. And my dear good friend in New York is very, very, very supportive, but will say it how it is. And that's because sometimes I'm overthinking and panicking, and she's got to knock me out of it. And she was like, look, the end of the world is stage 4 cancer with no treatment. That's when your health is brought into the picture and you're facing that, that's when you're entitled to have a moment and be like, oh my gosh, this is it. I think a lot of the things that we face, particularly in business and as we're growing in our careers, sometimes feels like it's the end of the world, but you do need to be you need that hard knock of perspective to be like, no, you're okay. You've gotten this far. Nothing stopped you on the journey so far. You managed to pick yourself up and keep going. So why are you now doubting that you can't continue to do that?
That's it. And even when you just touched on what you just said there, the worst things in life is, death, diseases, illnesses. Like, these are the real bad things. Like, in terms of, you trying something in your 20s and it didn't quite work out, and you have to then face, the humility from family members or friends that they might judge you because it didn't work. Like, those are the small things in life. Those are the things that you shouldn't be concerned about. But a lot of people are sometimes.
Me. I'm going to replay this episode every
No,
time we're having a
you don't strike me
moment.
as that sort of person. You strike me as a very strong-minded person that can overcome and adapt.
I am very, I don't know what it is. I don't know where it comes from. I say it all the time. I'm just I'm convinced that I'll make anything I want out of this life because I'm in control. I'm in the driver's seat. It's only me that's going to hold me back, no one else. But like I say, we're still human. We all still have wobbles. And, being self-employed now and being an entrepreneur and a founder of my own thing that I'm building, you learn so much of those hard lessons along the way. You can read all the books, you can listen to all the podcasts, but really and truly you don't understand it until you have to face it yourself and to go through those hardships and learn and come out the other side. So, I'm very much one of those people that when I started this podcast, I wanted people to be able to share prime examples of what they did in order for people to learn from their stories. But we can share everything in the world until you face that issue and it hits you like a ton of bricks. It's not going to feel like an issue. Does that make sense?
Yeah, 100%. Like, we as humans, we don't learn, from when things go well. You learn from the mistakes, you learn from the hardship, and you learn from actually taking action, actually doing things. You were saying about you can learn things from books and just general education like that. But I think until you get yourself into the field and actually start doing that role or building that business or taking that opportunity, whatever it is, that's when you're truly going to learn life lessons. And you get where I'm going with this.
Yeah. Let's talk a little bit about, because this is great. This is where we can actually dive a bit deeper into some of the ways that you've managed these situations. And I think one of the things in your 20s, you're finding your feet, what direction do you want to go in? Sometimes you can be a bit stagnant, you can plateau. I wonder, what have you done personally in those moments to like sit back and reflect and go, right, I need to pick up the momentum again and get back on track?
So first of all, I think it comes from your personal life as well. Like, a lot of people say, not to kind of, mix your kind of business life with your personal life. But I think naturally, as a founder of a company, as an entrepreneur, it is naturally going to mix. And I think sometimes if you're not focusing on just the little things in your normal day to day, being things like exercising, eating right, finding some time to take out for yourself, because we're all human. You can't, as much as we like to, put as and you know what it's like, right? When it's your own thing, when it's your own baby, your own business, you want to put in all the work, all the hours, every single day, every waking hour, every weekend. And it sounds great to do that because you're making so much, you're moving so many steps forward to accomplish what you're trying to achieve. But at the end of the day, we are all humans and we do need to take time out to relax. We need to take time out to make sure that we are doing other things in our actual day to day to make sure that we're still living a healthy life, still working out, still eating well. And all these little things really play a big part on the human mind. And I think just by doing these little things, as I say, eating well, going to the gym, taking some time to relax, whether you like to read a book, whether you like to go for long walks, do a bit of cooking, whatever it is, these little things are going to help you actually do better work in your actual business. So yeah, I feel like when I'm kind of feeling like that, I tend to usually, if I start to feel like that, it is usually because I think, right, I've put a load of time into the business over the last month. I've been slipping a little bit with the gym. I haven't been doing this. I haven't been doing that. So I usually take a little step back and just taking a day out of it and just saying, okay, look, let's just get these little things back on track again. Let's do a good gym session. Let's make sure that we're eating well. And then usually that kind of puts me back onto the right path again.
I've spoken about this quite a lot lately, and it's this, what are people doing to be working on the business rather than just in the business? Because I think sometimes when you get so wrapped up in the day-to-day of progressing your career and doing everything you can, again, you can feel stagnant because you're just doing your day-to-day, and you get great at that. You start getting quicker at that. But it's then, how are you still growing and learning? And I wonder from yourself, when I ask this question, being in the big city like London, so you're technically a small fish in a big pond, and you're really trying to obviously excel your career. There's lots of competition. What are some things you are like personally doing that are now your non-negotiables that you say, right, this is helping me to move the dial? And that might be, sitting and taking some time to learn, to read. Is it a course? Is it someone you speak to? Is it networking? Or any of these things that are really helping you to shift your perspective and get into that entrepreneur mindset and make sure that this is going to be the success you dream it to be?
Okay, so I think there's two answers to this. So first,
that was a huge question, by the way.
Yeah,
very
that
poetic.
was a huge question. It's a very good question. It's a very, very important question. But I've got two answers for you. So first of all, education, I think in any space is super important, especially the space that I'm in as well. Obviously, being in the AI technology space, I have to constantly, it is imperative for myself and for my team to be up to date and educated on all of the latest trends, all of the latest happening things within the AI and technology space. And I believe that that's a very important thing for any industry. You need to know what's going on in your space. It's one thing to say, okay, I'm good at my services, or I have this great product, but you need to know what's coming up next, because things are always going to change, whether that's with the insurance industry, logistics, finance, whatever it is, things are going to change and you need to know what those changes are. So you need to stay up to date with everything. You need to stay educated on your space. You need to be the number one go-to person who knows everything, all the nitty-gritties about your industry. So as I said, whether this is insurance, finance, whatever it is, you need to know everything that's going on, all the latest trends, what's coming up next, and you need to be the person that uses that knowledge to apply it into your business and for your clients. So that's one side of the answer. The other side for me as well is, as you say, networking and actually being proactive and getting the word out about your business and about your services. So networking is a very big one, because I believe with networking, especially a founder of a company wanting to go and to speak to other founders, it's not about, it's not about prospects or selling it. It's about going to build personal relationships to see where we can apply value for both parties of that relationship. So for me, attending networking events, attending conferences, and just generally, as I say, being proactive in getting the word out in what we're doing over here.
Going back to your first point,
Go
and
on.
you're going to be one of the best people to ask about this because, we're going to talk about AI today. But when I look at actively learning still, I think going online, sometimes there's 1,000,001 courses. I don't know which one is actually going to move the dial, that is actually going to be something that's recognized. Some of them cost lots of money. Some of them cost a tenner. And I'm like, where do I go with this? Do you know what I mean? Google's huge. What am I doing? So I actually started going on to ChatGPT and learning from that. I actually even started asking it to help set up certain courses or, help me set up certain tasks in my day to day that I can learn this, tick that off. Obviously, I'm moving a step closer or step further in my career, working towards those goals by doing that. Can that be trusted though? Like learning from things like ChatGPT, is that a good thing or a bad thing?
The great thing, and of
Yeah?
course it can be trusted, 100%. It's like, first of all, like, right, I'm gonna I'm gonna break this down. We're gonna come back to it, I promise. But as we move forward in time, we are always going to change the way we educate ourselves and the way that we learn. Because before Google and before the internet, we had books, we had the libraries, and then people had the same, skepticism when Google and the internet first came about. It was like, can this be trusted? Is this the way that we should be educating ourselves? But we move with times, and now we can't live our lives really without the internet and without Google. And that's the same thing with ChatGPT and these other AI features. We're going into a time now where education and the way that we work and the way that we do things is going to start changing. And it's already started changing. We've already seen that change. So to come back to your original question, yes, I would highly recommend people starting to use AI tools like ChatGPT to educate themselves, to pull information. It's funny you actually mentioned this. I won't go into too much detail because this is kind of a little hush hush at the moment. But our team, we are actually working on a similar AI tool that is solely and dedicated for business owners to help them with educating, help them running parts of their business. And we're also thinking about applying some sort of networking sort of sides to it as well. But that's something that we're kind of working on in the background as well. But it just kind of shows that we feel very strongly about the space of, running your business and educating yourself using AI tools. So yeah, this is definitely the way that the world's going. So I would highly recommend anybody who runs a business, or not even just runs a business, someone who just wants to educate themselves a bit more, look into AI tools, educate yourself on AI tools. It's definitely the way the world is moving forward.
Is this AI space that you're stepping into now, is that always been a passion, or is it coming from this like business entrepreneur mindset to be like, I can see that that's the future and I'd be missing an opportunity if I didn't take that as my next step in my career?
Okay, that's a good question. So it's it's a little bit of both. It's definitely it's 100% a passion of mine in this current time. Like obviously before AI was, I was going to say even before AI was a thing, but AI has actually been a thing for a long time. I think it's just new to us as the public. But before that, I've always had that entrepreneurial mindset of wanting to move forward with the next innovative thing. What's something that's going to change the way we do things? What is that, you know, that new thing? So when I started educating myself on AI, when we started seeing AI, being released to the public, that was something that I really kind of sunk my teeth into and wanted to, get involved with and find ways that I could leverage these tools to, you know, grow my own business and to use this technology to provide to clients and to customers.
I'm I'm not going to sit here and say that I'm an AI expert by any means, because I am one of those people that's like, ChatGPT, this is my life. And I don't see much outside of that. I use a lot of the AI tools that, like you say, very well known to the public. Notebook LM is one of my favorites at the moment. And I'm going to pitch you an idea now that you cannot steal. But I was thinking about it literally this morning. I was like, I need like a chip in my brain where I can input that as a PDF into Notebook LM, because exporting all of these other random things, like that's the great thing about that tool is it's like your own custom chat GPT, isn't it? So it's sourcing everything that you give it and it's using those resources to give you information. And I was thinking, oh my gosh, I've got 28 years of things bubbling up here. How am I going to get all of that out there? And then I was like, wow, this is where it's making me lazy, isn't it? I just need to think for myself.
Well, yeah. Well, first of all, I think that's a very good idea. Maybe we could collaborate on this. We could get Elon Musk on the phone, get Sam Altman on the phone. We'll have a conversation with them and
Yeah.
see if we can do something.
There'll be some sort of GDPR on that, won't there?
I'm sure that we can figure it out. Me and Elon, we're good friends. We can figure that out. So actually, coming back to that, actually, so you were saying there about tools. So I don't know if I just interrupted if you had a question there,
No, you
but
go, you
I,
go.
I was just going to say, like, people, like, there's so many tools, so many different AI tools on the market that a lot of people don't really consider or don't really even know about, because they naturally just hear AI and they think, oh, ChatGPT, that's all that I know. This is what I use. Okay, that, and they just kind of stuck in that ChatGPT bubble where they don't realize that there's so many other things out there on the market. Like you could pick up tools that can support with creating AI content. You can have tools that completely automate your whole business. That there's so many different things out there, like whether this is supporting with admin, sales, customer service, HR, as I said, content creation. So I think it's very important for people to get out of that ChatGPT bubble and mindset and actually go and educate themselves on what's actually capable, or what other tools are out there that can essentially support with their business, because there's absolutely no limitations on the types of workflows and types of AI tools that are out there. Eventually, and I know this is going to be very hard for some business owners to hear, but eventually we are going to see fully automated businesses. The same model, the same industry. So we could take recruitment, for example, same sector, same industry, same processes, but it's all going to be automated. Obviously, we may be a little, a few years off from that, but within them few years, we are going to see fully automated businesses. So for organizations and company owners right now, they need to not see that as necessarily competition, but they need to find a way that they can take these tools, use them as a collaboration tool, and implement it into their own business. Because as I say, there's no limitations on what can be done and what's actually out there in the AI space right now. And I just think it's very important for people to kind of educate themselves
You have to be totally honest with me now when I ask this question, okay?
on. I promise, go on.
Are you scared of anything when it comes to AI? Anything in your day to day? Is there anything that is making you go, oh, this bit makes me slightly uncomfortable? this could detriment my job, this could change up my day to day? I don't know.
So there's so many parts about AI that can be considered as scary. Now, I'm not a person that is necessarily concerned about is it going to take, my position. Because I'm in the mindset of always trying to adapt and always trying to find a way. Okay, AI's just brought this new feature out. Okay, yes, it could be seen as taking somebody's job away, but how can we leverage that into our business? How can we, you know, use that piece of technology? Because it's not about necessarily, and coming back to what I said earlier, as time moves forward, we change the way that we educate ourselves, we change the way that we do our day to day. But I believe with AI tools, it's going to start changing the type of work that we do. So instead of thinking to yourself, okay, right, AI could take my position, just think about it as, okay, this particular tool can support me with my position. Now, what other roles, what other work can I now go and do where AI is supporting that other part of my role? If that makes sense. Now, kind of coming back to, as you say, the scary parts of it, I think like it's going to go beyond what we see right now with AI workflows and stuff like that. We're going to generally be at a point where we're going to have, and it's already happening, where we're going to have AI robots to do cleaning for us, to make our food for us. That's where it starts getting a little bit scary because it's starting to take away the human element to an extreme, right? Because even just doing these little things, as we say, doing the cleaning in the house, doing the cooking, we're going to have AI robots that are going to be doing that for us. So that's where it starts to get a little concerning. But I don't think people should necessarily be worried about it. I think people should just be prepared to move forward with the times.
I tell you what, it's helped me do my job better, quicker, more efficient than anything has ever done for me before. So that doesn't scare me. But I did
And
have a
and what I was
lady.
going to say, but how much time do you think you now have? Like,
Yeah. But then I can do it on other things. Like I'm putting those hours into other things. Like some of the content creation stuff, I spent hours on it and I'm thinking, oh my gosh, what, like that's not actually earning me any money, those hours. That's just wasted hours. Like that's something that I now am earning more and doing more. But this lady in the States, she said to me, she said that she had an Uber come to her house. This was a couple months back, and it was self-driven, like a like a robot. I don't know. I didn't know that was a thing. Is it AI? Is it Elon Musk? I don't know. This Tesla thing. I don't know. But she was like, yeah. She was like, she cancelled it. She was like, I'm not getting in that. There's no one in the driver's seat. And I was like, that is the future. But that bloody well scares me.
it does seem scary right now because it's new. And as I
What would
said,
you
it's
get in the
it's
car? Tell me, would you get in the car right now?
would I get in the car? I like to consider myself as an adventurous person, so I probably would get in the car. But don't get me wrong,
Of course you would.
we are still in that time with AI at the moment where it is new. We're still educating ourselves. We're still learning, and to have these big jumps where it's like a vehicle turning up to your house without a driver, that's where it can be, as we say, a little concerning. But I think it's just we're still skeptical, right? But I think we'll become more comfortable as time goes along, exactly as we became comfortable with the internet and computers and all the technology that we have now. So that's all it really is.
When I introduced you, I said that, don't hate me for using the buzzword AI, but it's moving fast. And I think a lot of people are scared that they have to keep up. And, one of the things when you're a founder, an entrepreneur, or you're out on your own, and it's hilarious. People say, I go self-employed because I want more freedom and more time. You end up working double the hours. I think we all know that by now. When you're building something for yourself, you end up working more. When you're working in the day-to-day of your job and then you have to keep up with all the new things that are going on, where do you get that discipline or that mindset to be like, I've worked all day, now I'm going to sit and still do more research or work on my weekends and commit to this thing?
Well, as I said earlier, it is imperative for anybody in their selected field to continue educating themselves and staying up to date on everything. And I think, especially in the space that I'm in, AI changes not even every day, every minute there's a new update, there's a new change. And it is super important for us and the team to stay up to date with everything. Um, So I think just knowing that, just knowing how quick these updates and these changes are happening in the AI world has to keep us driven to keep putting more time into educating, learning what the next trend is, learning what the next change is. And it probably is a little bit of the fear of kind of falling behind because don't get me wrong, obviously there are plenty of other AI companies doing what we do as well. And in order for us to stay competitive and stay up to date with these people, we need to make sure that we are one of the first to know what the new changes are. So with that as well, just kind of leading off from that, we have dedicated we have a dedicated CTO in the business who not only manages the architecture of our developments and the projects that we do, but he sits there and he will completely be plugged in, wired up to know what the changes are, what the new things, what's the new happening things, and he'll come to me. He'll come to me on a daily basis and say, "Right, Kieran, this has changed. That's changed." I'm like, "Well, it wasn't like that yesterday. Well, now it has changed today." It's literally that fast. So I think to come back to the original question, it's knowing that we have to stay up to date and knowing that if we don't, we will fall behind. That's obviously what keeps us pushing to keep educating outside of these
Yeah.
working hours.
Yeah, that's the discipline. This isn't, a good or a bad. It's just a neutral question. But do you think your work is now becoming your personality?
I think it'll be difficult to say no. I know it's difficult, right? And to be honest, I think it's maybe different as an entrepreneur. Like I'm proud of what I do. I really enjoy this space. I'm passionate about it. So yes, I do naturally find myself in my day to day outside of the working hours talking about AI, learning about AI. It's definitely obviously not just my personality. We are all humans. We all have different likes, different hobbies, different interests, whatever. But I think it would be a lie to say that it doesn't just naturally become a part of you. But I don't see that as a bad thing personally.
For all the aliens that are listening to this, the amount of times we've said, we're all just human. They're like, hang on a bloody minute.
Yeah, yeah,
Drink every time one of us says, we're all just human. Have a shot.
yeah,
Get
yeah.
drunk for this podcast. I want to know now, before we kind of move on from the AI thing, is there anything that people aren't considering right now that's super exciting, that's, you're like, this is cool, this is a thing to look into, this is the space to be in, like any latest AI news and trends that you can share?
Yeah, of course. There's a couple. So I think first of all, AI content. Now I want to be very I want to kind of put it out there before we go into this. When it comes to AI content, I don't believe that AI is necessarily going to be taking over personal brands and stuff like that. They're definitely going to support with personal brands, but I don't think they're going to take over because once again, we have that human element that AI doesn't necessarily have. But when I'm talking about AI content creation, I'm talking about organizations that may not have big budgets to go out and film, adverts for their products and for their services. But there's some great tools out there. Like, for example, OpenAI just dropped Sora 2 the other day. For those of you who don't know what Sora 2 is, Sora 2 is essentially an AI content creation prompts platform. So you can essentially just go into the platform, you can prompt what type of content you want it to make, and I'm sure we've all seen some AI content generate that's AI generated content over the past year or so. But Sora 2, since their latest drop, it's been really scary on how realistic it actually looks. Like when it actually dropped, I'm going through my X feed and I'm seeing all these different videos that are created, and even I'm sitting there thinking, "Hang on, is that real? Is that not real?" So, but AI content creation is something that people should definitely look at. If you're running a business, you want to film something for your products or your services, but you don't necessarily have that massive budget to put towards, I would definitely look into AI generated content. The other thing that I would add to that as well is AI voice, which a lot of people have been skeptical about over the past year or so, but especially for industries like the healthcare sector, AI voice has become a massive part of that industry. So I'll kind of give a quick example here. If you are, for example, calling into a dental practice or to a doctor practice, and let's say the phone line has 50 people ringing in all at the same time. It's hard for the lady on the front desk to take all of them phone calls simultaneously. But what we can now do with AI voice is to basically allow AI voice to take these phone calls. It would be a voice on the other end of the line that sounds exactly like a human, that would essentially take the booking, put it into your calendar. And what that does is it will free up the receptionist time to be doing other important things, which is actually patient care for the patients that actually come down into the practice. So, but that's just one example of it. Like the advancements of AI voice over the past few months have been incredible. So I believe in time to come, there's going to be many businesses that are going to start implementing this technology, where it's either going to deal with the customer service side of things, or even possibly the sales side of things, when it comes to a business or an organization. So just to kind of recap there, I'd say AI voice and AI content creation is something that people should definitely start looking out for.
You need to pitch this AI voice to Indeed, because I kid you not, they keep ringing me and I don't know what they're trying to say, because I'm not on the job hunt, but they think I am. But this voice that's coming through on his phone, like, it's so robotic, I cannot stick it. I just put it straight down. Like, this is the one thing about AI as well, is that I've been on the other end of trying to create these videos and content, and sometimes it's like this shit in, shit out kind of thing. I'm not a prompt engineer, so I suppose some of the stuff I'm getting out is not looking as cool as some of the stuff I'm seeing on X. But is that down to, like I say, what I'm putting in, or are some of these day-to-day tools becoming more easily accessible for someone that isn't an engineer?
It's a bit of both, definitely a bit of
Yeah.
both. So I think at this time at the moment, for anybody who is trying to create these workflows or create AI content or create certain documents or whatever it is through ChatGPT, it's all about the prompting. You just need to learn how to master the prompting side of things. But then at the same time, these tools are getting better. These tools are advancing. They're becoming more accessible for the average normal day-to-day person. So it is a mixture of both. And that kind of comes down to, or kind of comes back to what I was saying. We like that there's still that skepticism with certain pieces of AI. So AI voice, AI content creation as an example. But the skepticism is there because the tools are still advancing, right? They're still getting better. So when, as you just said a minute ago, you've had these voices that called you up from Indeed. That's probably is an example of someone that hasn't prompted the voice properly. They haven't built the voice properly, and they're maybe using an outdated piece of technology. Or you may have heard that voice a year ago, but I'm sure if you hear that voice again today and next week and in a couple of weeks' time, it's only going to get better and better. And I keep saying this to people as well. Every time I speak to someone about the topic of AI, AI is the worst that it's going to be. And I think I'm gonna keep saying that, 'cause I've been saying this for the last couple of years. Like 2 years ago, I was like, AI is the worst it's going to be. It's the worst it's going to be. It's the worst it's going to be. Like next year, it's going to be the worst it's going to be, because there's so much room for development. There's so much room for it to get better and better. So yeah, I think over time that skepticism will fade away as the tools get better, as we get used to them. But it's like anything, right?
Gosh, I'm gonna laugh when I say this. I'm gonna
Go on.
get I'm laughing because I'm like, is this the right term to use? I'm going to get a little bit philosophical right now. That's a
Go
big
on.
old word for me.
I,
I
I, I
don't
love
actually,
I
I
love
don't
getting
know if
philosophical.
I've used it right, because what I'm about to say, I don't know if I've used it right. But
Go on. I'm
what
sure
I
you
was
have.
going to get into is, I was going to ask you about entrepreneurs. Are we isolating ourselves? Are we making a lonely life for ourselves, a lonely life for ourselves, I should say, as people that are, one, married to the job as it is, with, it's our babies, you've already referenced that. But two, now that the world is becoming so online, AI, automated, what do you think that does for our mental health in general moving forward? As someone, you're human. You
Of
use
course.
AI, but you're human still. You still have those emotions. Like, are you feeling lonely? Does any of that aspect of it worry you?
So I think what you're trying to get is, I think the loneliness has always been there with entrepreneurs, right? I don't think it's necessarily just the modern days of technology and being isolated at home. That probably can be a part of it. But I think entrepreneurship has always been lonely kind of from day one, because you're somebody that has different ideas from the masses. You have different ideas, you have different ways that you want to put them ideas out, and not everyone agrees with you. So you have to go off alone sometimes to make that happen, unless you can find a great business partner or someone that you can work alongside who shares them ideas with you. And that kind of leads me into the thing of actually essentially not feeling lonely in this space. I think if you have a business partner, if you have somebody that, as I say, shares the idea, shares the same entrepreneurial mindset as you, it makes it a little bit easier. But don't get me wrong, I think even with that, everyone's still gone through them times and them thoughts where it's like, this is tough, or I'm having one of them days, it's a bit lonely today or whatever. But I don't necessarily think it is as I say, with the kind of modern day technology or being isolated at home. Obviously, a lot of, I think since COVID, we've all can't become, adapted to the working from home. And so maybe not many people are in the offices and stuff like that. So I think if someone's really feeling like that, I think you just need to find ways to get out of the house and just, I'd say maybe kind of network with people that have the same mindset of you, if you are kind of feeling like that, I guess.
I wonder if have you ever been lonely enough or scared enough or anxious enough that you thought, even for a split second, I'm going to go back to being employed?
That's a very good question. That's a very good question. Don't get me wrong, like, yeah, I would be telling a lie if that wasn't the case. And, yeah. Yeah, sorry, yeah, it's a very good question, because as much as we, as entrepreneurs, we want to we're driven, right? And we're so that's the thing about entrepreneurs. They're people that just want to keep pushing forward, even though when it gets so tough, you just keep going, because you have that thing in your mind, you have that goal, you have that dream, you have that thing that you want to go for. But yeah, I'd be telling a lie if we haven't sat there and thought, "Ah, this is tough." We've gone at it for X amount of time. We haven't got to where we want to be. Should I go back into the working world? Should I go back into this? And I think even if somebody does have that mindset and they end up going back into the working world, I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing. I think it really, sometimes you may need that. You may need that little moment out where it's like, I'll go back to work. This thing that I was trying to do, it didn't quite work out at the moment, but I'll go back to work. But then it's what you're going to do after that moment. Okay, so you've gone back to you tried this business, it didn't work. You've gone back to work. Are you going to then is that going to be your life after that? If it is, that's completely fine. But are you then going to say, right, this was just a little break. This is me just getting my thoughts gathered again. Now it's time to go back into it again. Because if that is the case, there's nothing wrong with that. Jobs are always going to be there. You can always go back to go and get some, if you just need some financial support or whatever it is, and then you can go back to your thing again. There's always time for it.
It's interesting I asked you that question because I honestly, kid you not, had that moment yesterday for a split second. And I was with my partner on a dog walk and I said it out loud. And I'm one of those people that doesn't like to vocalize a problem or a challenge too much because I start to believe, oh, now you're making it true. You're bringing it to life. But then I sorted myself out and remembered that I didn't want those Sunday scaries anymore. Like, I love being my own boss. And how can you even say you failed or it's not worked? Because I'm 28 years old. Mr. KFC himself didn't make it till he was like 60 or 70, did he? So I'm like, I've got so many years yet. How can I sit here now and say this is it?
That's it. That's it. There's so much time for people like us. And as I say, even people in their 40s and 50s, there's still time. Like, we don't need to be necessarily worried. And if we do need to take them little breaks, if you do need to think, okay, I need to go back to do this for a minute, it's about what you do after. Are you going to pick yourself back up and then go back into what you do? But kind of coming back to that, like, I'm one of these people, even when I first started doing this, like, just kind of give some context, I've tried multiple, we've already spoke about it earlier, I've tried different things sort of in my early teens and early 20s where I bounced between trying businesses, going back to work. And, this is the thing that I'm doing now where it's the thing that's worked, it's the thing that I've, truly feel sort of passionate about. But we so I feel like basically I think what I'm trying to get is going back to, if you want to go back to work, if you go back into a different situation, it is about what you know want to come back to. Because if you always have that mind of like this is really what I want to do, this is my dream, this is my passion, you'll find a way to get yourself back to it again, if that makes
Yeah,
sense.
yeah. I think if you've already had that entrepreneur bug, I don't think you'll ever be fully satisfied until you give it everything you've got.
That's it. And to be honest, I'm the type of person where, and so I feel like this is what I was about to say a second ago. So I'm the type of person who says to myself, I would rather be doing what I'm doing, where I have control of the hours, I'm doing something that I'm passionate about, but not necessarily have the, massive financial rewards at this moment. As long as I'm enjoying doing what I'm doing, I control my hours, I value that more. I value my time more, putting the work into something like that, rather than accepting that high paying job where I naturally know in the back of my mind that it's not something that I'm truly passionate about, or it's not something that I feel comfortable putting my time into, because it's not something that I'm building for myself.
My friend said to me the other day, and I absolutely love this question, but it was, what was once a mistake you could now be grateful for? So I wonder, is there a crisis or something that felt like a crisis that happened during your career that you now see as a gift?
Okay, so there's not I couldn't necessarily maybe give you just one. Don't get me wrong, there's everyone makes mistakes, and I've made so many different, I've had so many different life lessons along the way, so I'm not going to break them all down, but I will say collectively that things in terms of, I think, the way that maybe I was communicating my business and trying to kind of put myself out there in certain situations, maybe I did it, or did them actions in different ways before, right? And I think, and it's not necessary to say that I made kind of massive mistakes, but it was just learning from, okay, well, that didn't quite work, that didn't quite work. So, but I would say in general, like out of everything that I've kind of, all these life lessons and mistakes that I've made, it's very important to have them mistakes. It's very important to do them, because you don't learn from the successes, you learn from the mistakes and the failures, right? So yeah, I would say there's not necessarily one thing that I can pinpoint down, but I think definitely getting started and putting myself and my brand out there, not just my personal brand, but even the business's brand, I was maybe doing it in the wrong ways. And I've kind of learned from their mistakes to now know how to kind of communicate and network in the right way.
Mm. When you say the wrong way, is that like, because I'm thinking personally for myself as well, is that being young for me, it's been being young and trying so hard to prove your worth and your seat at that table that sometimes the tone and the way you communicate comes across wrong? Or is it something completely different for you?
I would say it's a little bit different. I would say definitely the young part coming from it, because I was doing this. I'm 28, nearly 29 now, but I was started even before I was sort of in the AI space. I was still doing technology in different fields, in sales and recruitment and stuff like that. And like I was still young, right? So I think maybe just not having all of them life lessons to know how to communicate and articulate myself with these, C-level people. So I'm kind of maybe going in with a younger person's mindset and not quite having the enough experience to, as I say, communicate and articulate myself with CEOs, founders, and but I was still passionate and I was still driven to just go in and try. And I try to have these conversations. It didn't go well, so then I would sit back and reflect, and I'd say, okay, well, what did I say there? How could I do it better? And then obviously over time, it's now just become a natural kind of talent for me to be able to articulate and communicate with these type of people.
It's ironic. A coach taught me this, actually, a career coach, but when you're trying to communicate or to be the best person at communicating any scenario, you actually want to listen. And he used the term active listening. And that's like in a sense of saying, if someone's just spoken to you in a meeting, could you repeat back word for word what they just said? Because I think sometimes we're so caught up in what's going to be what I say next in order to add value to this conversation that we didn't pause, we didn't be present, we didn't reflect, and we didn't actually listen to what's going on in the room. And that's sometimes where we make those like fuck ups in those types of scenarios, you know?
Yeah. No,
Mm.
of course, and that's just kind of, basic communication skills, right? You want to always be listening. You want to always know how to, somewhat provide value back to the conversation, but without naturally just thinking, "Oh, it's about me now. It's about me."
Yeah. I get that.
But I
That's
think we learn that as we go along. We learn that as we go along.
Oh yeah, 100%. And that used to really annoy me because I used to have people older and wiser say, "You'll get there with time." And I used to think, "Well, I want it all now.
Yeah,
I want to be
yeah,
there now." That's a really hard thing about going through the motions of growing for your career. But I also, again, on that point, like to think that we're now opening rooms to people older and people younger because I think we can learn a thing from both. I don't just think it's the older the wiser anymore.
No, of course not. And I think because we have these platforms where younger people can show their skill sets and show who they are, where, back in, sort of 40 years ago, we didn't have that, right? You had to make your way up through the ranks until you were even allowed into that boardroom, where now it's completely different.
Let's round up now towards the end of the podcast because I want to ask you to provide some homework for our listeners. It's something I want to do where people, they don't just listen to this conversation, they actually engage, they actively listen and they go away and they have some homework for sort of the next 7 days until the next episode comes around. So I wonder if you could leave everyone with maybe one action, whether that be like a tool, a habit, a question, a book that they should try this week. What would it be?
So once again, and I apologize if I keep doing this to your questions, but I'm not just going to give one direct answer on one direct thing that people should go out and go and do. But if there's
Well, you're the
anything
worst teacher, aren't you? Just give them loads of homework.
yeah, exactly. I think the one thing that people should be doing is actually just going to educate themselves in general on the AI space. Understand what their business actually is, understand the use case for their business, and find ways to apply that into what they're doing. Because the biggest problem right now I find with CEOs and founders that I speak to on a daily basis is they're just not educated enough on what capabilities are out there with the AI, the technology that we have. Coming back to what we were saying, people are so into just OpenAI, ChatGPT, but there is so many different tools out there. And the other problem lies as well where people, these company owners, they just see the shiny tools. They see what's out there and they think, oh, that's worked for that business, but must work for my business. That's not the case at all. There's a different tool for every industry, for every use case, for every problem. So people just need to go out, educate themselves on the space, understand what the use case is for their business, and find ways to apply it.
So do you suggest maybe going out onto Google and searching what are the alternatives to just ChatGPT, or maybe actually downloading some of them and giving them a go?
Download them, play around with them, give them a go, speak with ChatGPT, go onto Google, watch videos, go onto X. There's so many different platforms to learn about this space, but I would say go and speak to someone who's in the space as well. Go and speak to a professional who is involved with the AI world. Just grab them for 10 minutes and just ask them different questions. If you don't have the opportunity to do that, then educate yourself by using these different tools. And as you said, download them, get the free versions, see if they work for you. Because I promise to all the listeners out there, there is no limitations on the type of things that can be done with AI in this day and age. So it's just very important to educate and find ways to apply it to your business.
And I think the biggest thing for anyone listening that's thinking, "Oh, I don't need that. It doesn't matter to me." That would be like someone back in I don't know if it was the 90s or something saying, "I'll never need a computer. The internet is not relevant to me." Like if you
It's
think about someone saying that now, you'd be like, "You're crazy."
it's all come back around 360 again. As you just said, late 90s, early 2000s, people didn't want the internet, they didn't want the computers, but now we can't live without it. And as much as we like it or not, that's exactly the way AI is going as well.
Mm. Thanks so much for your time today, Kieran.
No, I really appreciate it. Thanks for having me on.
Okay, as always around here, you've got some homework to do. On Monday, take Kieran's advice and commit to it for 7 days. Track how it changes your focus, your energy, or your results, because patterns compound and small shifts move the dial. I'm not sure what that was. Anyway, the difference between getting ahead or being left behind, I truly, honestly don't believe it's the tech. It's about whether or not you decide to take action. I'm Meg, and I'll catch you next week for a brand new episode of the Sunday Suite. I feel like those Disney people back in the day when they used to, like, welcome to the Disney Channel. Have I just made that up? I'm so cringe.